www.theleaguefantasyfootball.wordpress.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at The League Podcast and on Twitter at The League Pod. All of our podcasts will be posted on SoundCloud at The League Podcast as well.
Are you ready? Oh, I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Let's do this.
Let's do this thing, man.
The League Podcast.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys? You got J&D here with The League Podcast. Today is a very, very special day. It's not only, one of my favorite days of the week, Waiver Wire Wednesday, but it's actually Jay's birthday. So happy birthday, Jay.
Thank you, brother.
Pretty awesome. Thanks for meeting early on the birthday to podcast.
Oh, glad to get to enjoy a nice long day up and early, top of the morn. Woke up to some presents on the fantasy team. Not so much, not the best presents. I wanted more, but it is what it is. That's what happens when you're one of the best players in the league. You end up with the bottom of the barrel. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. You've already pretty much got your solid starters. But, you
Nasty.
could be hurt on bye weeks.
That's
or
what I was
going to
say. My bye weeks this week, I got 3 players on a bye week in my starting lineup. So that definitely takes a toll on you. So my flex spot's looking rough. I was really hoping to land, obviously, one of the top guys, but that'll never happen. Marlon Mack, obviously, was a big one this week. Peyton Barber. And then, I think where we start, Dill, is quarterbacks. I think we go position by position, and we figure out all these people's needs. Like you said, bye weeks, injuries that are popping up,
Aaron
of injuries.
Rodgers, Russell Wilson, obviously. You probably weren't starting Josh Allen, but now he's hurt out for a couple of weeks.
Which means a defense against a Nathan Peterman, like we were kind of discussing, could be a decent stream, but we're talking about the Indianapolis Colts against him, so we'll see.
Yeah, so first quarterback I want to talk about is someone I actually picked up in my Dynasty League because I don't only think that, he's a bye week fill-in. He potentially could be a solid starting quarterback in the NFL and produce. So I'm actually stoked to be able to pick him up in the Dynasty League, and I'm not going to drop him after this week. I'm going to hold on to him on my team, and obviously as the season goes on, we'll see how he does. He does have a couple tough matchups.
And who is this guy?
6 touchdowns. Mitch Trubisky. So
yes, Mitch.
Did I not say that at the beginning?
No.
Wow.
You just rambled, I think, because you're so excited about this.
Yeah, man. So, so I picked up Mitch.
And especially in a Dynasty League, you're going to have him forever. This guy's 22, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's young, man. And, obviously it's his second year, and he's picked up the pace a lot with Matt Nagy calling the offensive plays. So I'm excited. I'll start him confidently against the Patriots this week, who they just had a huge shootout with the Chiefs.
Yep.
So I could see the same thing happening. It's a good week, obviously to start someone like Tariq Cohen too,
Seriously.
or even one of our other waiver wire guys that we'll talk about later. But yeah, Mitch Trubisky, definitely like him a lot. Happy I picked him up. He's only owned in 23% of leagues. So if he's still out there, especially like 2 quarterback leagues, it's so tough on those bye weeks that you need it. Like, he would be such a nice guy to pick up and fill in. Sorry. But anyways, Mitch Trubisky, throw him in your lineup this week with confidence.
I like it. I like it a lot, especially with that. After that 6 touchdown game, it's crazy he's on waiver wires, let alone on the our dynasty waiver wire. That's crazy. I would have thought did he get drafted?
He might have. I'm not sure.
Gosh, it seemed like, and with the amount of, we have like how many bench spots? We have like at least 10 bench spots in that league. So, all right, well, I love it, Mitch. I got an older guy. I got someone that it's always so hit or miss for me. I have relied on this man for fantasy seasons in the past. I do have his number 1 receiver, Mr. Odell Beckham. I'm going with the old vet coming off a pretty bad game, Mr. Eli Manning. I think it's a big bounce back week for Eli and the New York Jets, all of them. Eli obviously is only 22% owned in leagues. He's not the guy everyone's drooling over by any means, but he's got weapons in that offense. Not to mention, he's going up against Atlanta. They've given up over 250 yards in 5 straight games. And when I feel like when the New York Giants know that there's a weakness in that defense, they just attack it and attack it and attack it. Where we saw last game, they didn't do that. We're going to see Eli, I think, throw for 40 or 50 passes this week against Atlanta and go absolutely off. I don't have a bye week for any of my quarterbacks, so I don't luckily need to stream him, but I definitely would get him in my lineup if I needed to, especially we got Evan Ingram, who should be coming back as
Yeah.
well. That's another crazy target that is just going to help him out. So, Eli Manning's not doing that bad. He's averaging 277 yards per game. He is hurting in touchdowns, though. Only has 6 touchdowns. So, I think this week, though, he might even have a 3-touchdown game and really bounce back, like I said. So, definitely look out for him. If you need that fill-in, go with Eli. I'm telling you. So, Dill, why don't we get into a couple other guys who maybe are much less owned. I'm talking in the 4 to 5% range owned. So these guys obviously are huge risks in a sense, but at the same time have the weapons in their offenses to have huge rewards as well. So who's your guy, Dill?
So Josh Rosen for the Arizona Cardinals.
I love it.
UCLA Bruins.
That's right.
Love the UCLA Bruins, if you didn't know. So I'm always
Now you
rooting for
know.
those guys.
Me
So
too.
I'm hoping it's his coming out party. Thursday night football in the prime time game at home, So that's a little more confidence on his end. Obviously, he's starting to really click with Christian Kirk. Hopefully, they give the ball to David Johnson more, which will open it up to throw the ball more, because right now it's just...
Yeah, what's going on with their play calling, Dill?
Yeah, no, Mike McCoy, who I thought, he's had his
Man.
good years of play calling in the NFL, but this is not one of them, that's for sure. I've been pretty disappointed. I think a lot of, David Johnson fantasy owners have been disappointed with it as well, but they know that they have to be able to throw the ball to run the ball, so they are throwing it. Obviously, I think they can do a little bit better of balance. It's either he's going so hard with one or so hard with the other. Denver is obviously not the easiest defense to play against, but they've also been really exposed this year and, have given up decent games to quarterbacks, But last week played Jared Goff. Jared Goff only almost got like 7 points.
Yeah,
so
7
that's
or
a
8
little
points.
Yeah, that's a little nerve-wracking, but
And this could be your DJ game, honestly. It
Yeah.
could really be that David Johnson game, which only opens up the pass, which could give him the opportunity to score touchdowns.
I'm pretty desperate. That's what it comes down to. We're in a 2-quarterback league, and there's no one to pick from. Literally, it was Josh Rosen.
Is Mitch Trubisky the one you picked up in that league or starting in that league or different? Oh, that's
our
Dynasty. Gotcha.
So this is our 2-quarterback league, and I have Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz.
Both
Aaron Rodgers is on a bye. So now, in my pickings for this league,
what about Carson Wentz?
it's 2 quarterbacks.
Oh, it's a 2-quarter. Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, I'm getting a Dynasty and 2 quarterbacks so mixed up.
My options right now,
Baker
Mayfield got dropped, but I run the risk of trying to pick him up. He doesn't go through till the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be after Thursday football. So if I don't start Josh Rosen, then I could potentially lose out on Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen, and I'd have to choose between a Tannehill or a,
Lamar Jackson, baby.
Nathan Peterman. So
yeah.
I think I'm going to just stick with the points, the for sure points, because I think Josh Rosen will at least hopefully give me 10 to 15 points, but I don't know. Baker Mayfield, such an amazing matchup this week against Tampa Bay. So if he's on your waiver wire,
I think you should still try and get him.
I know I should. It's just, let's look and see what my waiver is in this league.
But this guy, Josh Rosen, who you're talking about, is only 4% owned. So if you can, if you're in a position like Dylan is, go get him. Go get him.
Go get him. Jay, what about you? You got any other
So I got a guy.
quarterbacks?
Yeah, I got a guy who's only 5% owned, and I like this week possibly more than Josh Rosen, even though I do love Josh Rosen. Both of them not great matchups necessarily. Denver is definitely giving up a lot of points, but at the same time, they shut the Rams down for the most part. Todd Gurley, 200 yards. You're not going to do shit about that. But
No.
And then the guy I'm talking about is C.J. Beathard, stepping in for
Wow.
hurt Jimmy Garoppolo. He's only 5% owned in leagues. And, I think it's someone to really consider. He's also playing the Rams, like I said, who have given up multiple touchdown passes to each of the last 4 quarterbacks. So they're definitely vulnerable in a sense. Obviously, if, without Aqib Talib, they only have Marcus Peters and Sam Shields, Sam Shields does amazing. Don't get me wrong, but he can be beaten. There's holes in that defense that can be beat, especially with a Marquise Goodwin who can just fly across that field. So Beathard, though, he coming off a amazing game. He put up almost 19 points. against the Packers, 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, getting out of the pocket a little bit, rushed 3 times for 21 yards, a little bit of doing it all. And he has a cannon. I mean, he literally has a cannon. He showed me a lot against my Packers. I am kind of confident in him going into this week. It seems like that offense has full trust in him, and they're really relying on him at this point, obviously, without Jimmy G. So I'm interested to see what CJ is going to do moving forward, and I like him because he seems like a competitor. So
Yeah, no, I like it. He was a competitor at Iowa. He did well. Threw for a. He was one of those top guys that you thought that maybe could do something in the NFL. So I'm happy to see him actually doing well.
Well, sticking with 49er. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump right into
real quick.
What?
I want to say something real quick.
Uh-oh.
In our 2-quarterback league, my brother Tyler, who's not super into fantasy, we've been trying to get him to join our league.
Mm-hmm.
He did a draft, so he went to where the draft party was.
You told me, yeah.
He drafted for someone.
So for that girl who didn't draft at all, basically, he did the whole draft for her.
Did the whole draft. She's in first place.
Wow, let me see her team.
She's in first place right now. So
who? Breeze by Phil?
Yeah. So shout out to Tyler for drafting a decent team.
I'm so pissed I traded you Julian Edelman, Dylan.
Oh, I know.
I should have never done that. Definitely. Damn.
And the bench isn't that great, but I mean, obviously they've been performing for him.
Wow. Does Tyler know that?
No.
Wow.
I can't wait to tell him.
That's
but it's
so funny.
pretty awesome. So.
All right.
Anyways, let's move on
to so like I was saying, we're going to get into the running backs. And since I was with CJ Beathard, I'm talking about a guy now who probably wasn't the top of the waiver wire list, but definitely was a hot commodity. And the guy that I landed on my birthday, all right? Waiver wire birthday. And that's Mr. Raheem Mostert. Mustard.
Mr. Mustard.
He is 1% owned. Let me say that again. 1% owned. He got 2 less carries than Matt Breida last week. And saw more yards. He was running like a bat out of hell. He did get challenged by Coach Kyle Shanahan because the week previous he fumbled on his first carry.
Oof.
So Kyle Shanahan and that whole team knew obviously that he could do better. So they all kind of called him out, it sounded like. And he was coming in. He took a crazy week of practice, was working super hard, and he said it just relayed into that Sunday night football game. And I think that he now has a bit of a chip on his shoulder and is going to want to really try and show them that, listen, we don't need Alfred Morris as that guy. I'm that guy. And possibly, I mean, we know Breida's been so banged up. He wasn't even going to play against the Packers on Sunday, was able to get his body ready, ended up playing, and obviously got the workload. But if he misses a game, this guy, Raheem, might just be a 15 to 20 touch back. So I'm kind of interested to keep on hold on to him. I'm in a position though where I plan on the guy I picked up on my waiver wire putting into my flex, and I'm nervous about him just because of
it's a risk.
I don't know his usage. People started Alfred Morris all across the board last week because he had the most red zone touches, even with Breida in, yada yada yada. Got zero touches really. I mean, or maybe he got the 1 touch, but it got called back. But scary. So I don't know if that's going to relay right into Raheem Mustard. He got a great game, but then next week Alfred Morris is going to be doing that exact same thing. So it's scary. I definitely want to hold on to him on my bench for one more week. See him watch that offense because I didn't watch that offense in detail much. I was flying on a plane. So
I liked him a lot. And like I said, he wears number 31.
It's your boy. Reminds you of Mr.
And
DJ,
the way he runs, just like, I don't know. There was just something about him. I'm like, this guy's going to be special.
Well, I mean, he turned 12 carries into 87 yards. I mean,
he was breaking tackles. He was juking. He was elusive. Like, he had some power, but he had speed. I mean, this guy.
What I like about this guy right now, if you got him on your team, you got to look out for the Breida owner that, obviously he's injury prone. He's the handcuff to Breida. It could be just trade bait sitting in your pocket on your bench right there if that other players in a position where he is really relying on Breida. So that's who I picked up. I wanted to talk about him just because we're on the San Francisco page, but let's go more to the top of the list. Who do you like out of that top list?
I think it's pretty obvious.
I know you had I want you to kind of talk about Marlon Mack. You had him last week on your team, and you ended up dropping him, and now he's probably the hottest waiver wire commodity.
So I knew that this would happen. This happens to me every time. We talked about it last week in one of our podcasts that I am prone to picking up guys and dropping them and them being successful. But the way I do waiver is a little different. Is I drop my kicker. So I drop my kicker so I get an extra bench spot so I can pick up skill players and see if possibly throughout the week someone pops up on injury so I can put them on the IR or package a deal for like a 2-for-1 trade and clear up a bench spot to pick up a kicker. That's my view on every single week. Because there's a lot of players that I like that are on the waiver wire. Anyways, so I picked up Marlon Mack last week.
Real smart. Get that extra spot, extra player, and then. But the hardest part is making that decision on Sunday morning.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I chose Mike Davis over Marlon Mack. I dropped Marlon Mack, kept Mike Davis on my team.
And that's right there, just so
stupidity.
Tough.
And it's not Mike Davis killed it 2-3 weeks ago, and then obviously saw a nice workload the following week. But it just shows that they want to get Rashad Penny involved. So it was a split between Rashad Penny, Mike Davis, and Chris Carter. It's a three-headed backfield, just like the Packers' backfield. So it's one of those that you kind of want to stay away from.
Looking better. The Seahawks looking much better.
Oh, they want to run the ball,
So that's at least promising. But let's flip back to Marlon Mack. He was impressive. Had 12 carries, 89 yards. I mean, he definitely was the lead back there, and I think that now it's sad to say Nyheim Hines is kind of taking a big step back.
He is, but, Marlon Mack did play 6 fewer plays than him, or snaps. So it was 30-24, but he did look way better. 12 rushes for 89 yards.
Compared to Nyheim's only 3
Yeah,
carries.
He's not a rusher. He is strictly a James White, where you are hoping for,
Yep. And
exactly.
What's the beauty about the Colts is they could be playing from behind a lot, which really benefits Nyheim Hines, but I still think they'd have Marlon Mack out there, and they're just easing him in due to injury. But, man, he did look good, and I think he probably was the top waiver wire ad coming into this week.
Running backs are always super valuable. I didn't even put him on my waiver because I knew he'd be swapped up pretty quickly there.
I always just hope. But you look at it moving forward, he plays a good matchup next week. This was a tough week this week. Buffalo's been pretty stingy coming up to this point. Oakland, decent matchup, but then they got a bye week, which always hurts. And then their schedule gets so tough. They play Jacksonville, Tennessee, Jacksonville again, Houston's given up basically no running rush yards whatsoever. So his outlook for the rest of the season is a little bit scary, in my opinion, for Marlon Mack.
I think he's going to definitely be a flex for you, if anything, or, just a depth spot.
If you need it, but I mean, it's hard to even start Marlon Mack moving forward. Maybe this week or next. But
yeah, it is. But anyways, Marlon Mack, definitely someone, if you are hurt at running back, great pickup.
Yeah.
Also, touch base on another guy real quick that a lot of people dropped was Mr. Peyton Barber.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we really wanted him last night. I picked up Ronald Jones last week, thinking that
everyone did, man.
I
dropped Peyton Barber in our dynasty league. I dropped him because I was so confident that Ronald Jones was going to be the guy as well.
I was, but I at the same time was like, it's tough because Ronald Jones looks so bad to this point, which sucks because he was great in college, but. Definitely wanted Peyton Barber. Didn't end up with him. He is obviously now that lion's share. He's getting all the work. He got 13 carries for 82 yards. But at the same time, I don't know how much they're gonna have to. They're gonna be passing the ball, I feel like. So someone else who I really wanted was, who we'll get into in the next segment is Goodwin, Mr. Goodwin on the Bucks. But Peyton Barber, I think, is the guy to own in that backfield from now on. Ronald Jones rushed the ball one time. He is absolutely in no harm to Barber's workload whatsoever.
Well, Barber's a good pass catcher, too. That's what makes him more valuable. 4 catches on 4 targets and a touchdown. So I like Peyton Barber. I think if you picked him up, he's definitely a decent flex.
Yeah, I was
maybe even
really
RB2.
hoping to put him in my flex because I'm confident with starting him this week.
Oh,
I really am. I like that pickup. And another guy a lot of people dropped unless. Do you have anything else to say about
No,
PB?
we can definitely go on to the next
Duke
one.
Johnson. He got dropped in a lot of leagues because of his usage. For some reason, they're not getting him the ball. But then, of course, he's coming off a game where he finally starting to get that usage. And I think that's going to be the case moving forward. He had 4 catches for 73 yards. Only had 2 carries for 36. But we know he eats when he's getting the ball thrown to him. So I definitely like him. I just actually picked him up this morning because he's still out there. He might be thrown into my flex this week simply because of them playing. I think they're playing the Bucks. So that could be one of those shootouts that I just could see them throwing the ball to Duke Johnson, getting him very involved. The Bucks have allowed over 300 passing yards in every game this season, which means if Duke can just get the ball in his hands, he can do work against that defense. So I very well could start Duke in my flex. I got him on the waiver just now, actually, before we started this podcast, and I might just go with him. I like it.
Yeah, and one guy I want to talk about just really quick, Frank Gore. Barely owned in any leagues, and he's starting to show that he's their ground and pound guy. Especially if you're in a standard league, he's someone to go pick up for sure. I mean, he had over 100 yards rushing last week, and
is the oldest running back in the league.
Yeah,
so that's
he's still grounding and pounding
impressive.
it. Yeah, I'm super impressed with what he's doing, and like I said, if he's out there and you need a running back this week, he's definitely someone you can plug and play this week against the Detroit Lions defense that has been getting, like we said, shredded by the running game. So
yeah, that was another guy that I would have loved to put in my flex this week. I don't know about year-long outlook. I do like him this week though. Frank Gore, I'm deploying if I got him this week, no doubt.
Oh, nice. I got Peyton Barber in this league.
Ooh. So, did you want to touch on Ito Smith?
I think that it's just pretty obvious. Devontae Freeman, IR, 8 weeks. So, Ito Smith is going to go in like everyone's saying that Telvin Coleman role. But at the end of the day, he's actually moving into, I think, the Devontae Freeman role. He's kind of similar qualities to him, and they like to give him the ball in the red zone. So, Tevin Coleman will be in there, catch those passes and whatnot, but they've been putting him in the 5-yard line. He's been scoring touchdowns. So he just needs a little more touches, and I think this guy could potentially be a pretty decent flex play throughout the year. But once again, you kind of want to see more usage out of him with Devontae Freeman finally going out, and they like him. That's for sure, and he's young. So
I think he's a priority.
Tevin Coleman, contract year, so they may be thinking, this is our chance to see what we got in Ito Smith with Tevin Coleman leaving, or potentially shipping him out. But I don't think they will anymore with Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, Ito Smith is a for sure grab in our league. Matt, great grab last week. We talked about it last night.
I've got Ito Smith in our Dynasty League. So
nice. That's a great Dynasty keep right there. So I think that basically sums up the RBs. I do kind of want to shout out one quick guy, Jamal Charles. Got picked up by the Jacksonville Jags. We're talking about back in his heyday, the fantasy football god, Jamal Charles. I just think it's worth a watch. I think you watch him this week. He's 12% owned. He's only 12% owned, so he's guaranteed out there in your league. But I just have that thought of Jamal Charles and what he could possibly do. And TJ Yeldon, we know, is super injury prone as well. Jamal Charles just could all of a sudden become a baller back there. But that's just someone I wanted to throw out there. But let's get into these receivers, Dill.
Yeah, you bet. Someone that you had kind of mentioned earlier, but you didn't go into detail about was Chris Godwin.
Yes, sir.
So I don't want to touch base on him.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk too much. You've obviously been praising him all year. He's caught a touchdown in every game this year, I think, except one. They do have a trio of talented receivers, though, so it's a bit scary. They do have 2 great tight ends as well. I don't know if O.J. Howard's for sure coming back this week or not, but
O.J. Howard?
He's back.
Yeah, he balled last week.
He did.
4 catches, 4 targets for a touchdown. He scored 16 points on my bench last week.
Where the hell I was.
So I think that you can.
But so exactly, it's gonna be tough for Godwin just because they have so many players in that offense. But at the same time,
he's scoring touchdowns, man.
He's scoring TDs, very TD dependent, and he is getting last week he had the most targets of any of the trio of receivers on that team. So that's another guy that I wish I would have had on my team this week. Waking up this morning, I wish I had him on the waiver. He was probably my second or third waiver wire request and didn't get him, and I'm bummed. But he has a lot of scoring upside each week. I think he's a flex every week too. Matt, I didn't get him. If you got him, you're stoked. I think you got a very nice depth at receiver when you got
definitely.
that.
And
what about this next guy who I'm pretty impressed. Dylan was able to drop this guy and ended up picking him back up this week, which is kind of mind-boggling with his stats the last few weeks.
I know, and I'm so happy about it. Once again, I had Marlon Mack on my roster and Taylor Gabriel. I dropped both of them last week, so that sucked. But at the end of the day, I was hoping O.J. Howard stayed on my IR and I was able to keep at least one of those guys. And unfortunately, he wasn't, so I had to drop someone, and it was those two guys. But anyways, I got him. Yeah, it's crazy. He's second on the offense with targets, only behind, obviously, Allen Robinson by 4. He's posted 2 straight 100-yard games. He leads the Bears, actually, in receptions and receiving yards. And Mitch Trubisky trusts him. He likes him a lot, and Matt Nagy is trying to get the ball in his hands. He's even running the ball. So
Nagy's finally seeing his playmakers. He's finally getting it to Tariq Cohen, seeing what he can do. He's finally seeing that Taylor Gabriel.
They're trying to be quick.
It's ridiculous
fast.
with the ball in his hand, and he gets so open so fast. I do like Taylor a lot. I have Allen Robinson is the only reason I didn't go fishing for Taylor Gabriel.
And that's why, Allen Robinson's been on the trading block in our league, and I wanted to grab him, but at the end of the day, I was like, man, I like Taylor Gabriel a lot, and if I can get him on my team, I'm okay with having Taylor Gabriel instead of an Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, they complement each other really nicely. That Allen Robinson is such a possessional receiver. Taylor Gabriel will take the top off anybody.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
And I do like him a lot.
They have this team bond, they were talking, Allen Robinson was talking about Taylor Gabriel, saying he's not just a gadget guy. Like, this guy's a receiver, a full complementary receiver that can do everything,
and they were talking about Allen Robinson, same deal, talking about how much of a leader he is. And he may not be the loudest, but you can tell by his work ethic and how he plays. I think that offense is really going to be coming together. And they already have. You've seen it. I mean, they scored 6 touchdowns last week, or 2 weeks ago. So I like that offense. I really do. What happened to Jordan Howard? I just think they are just seeing how
they're trying to be quick.
They're trying to be quick, exactly, and they're seeing how they can be effective with passing the ball and getting it out fast and not having to rely so much on that run game. But I don't know. I don't know what you do with Jordan Howard right now.
I'm starting him. I have him in a league, and I'm starting him this week.
Well, you have to. I mean, you draft him in the second round. You're starting him. I'm thinking outlook, though. Are you wanting to trade him, or are you thinking, hold on to him? Because it's just, every player goes through this, where they'll have a couple games where they're down. Look at Odell for crying out loud. It's going to happen. But anyway.
It is, and I mean, his schedule year long is beautiful.
Yeah,
so,
nice.
I mean, he's bound to score points.
They're going to get these games, too, where they get up and rely on that ground game. He's going to ground game. So
I think if you're at the top of your league with Jordan Howard, in the first 3-4 spots, I think you're okay. If you're at the bottom barrel and you need to make a move, then Jordan Howard might be someone worth shipping out.
Love it. Definitely. Let's jump into another receiver here. This guy's coming out of South Beach, Miami. Mr. Albert Wilson balling with Mr. Brock Osweiler. Forget the Tannehill, Devontae Parker hype.
Seriously.
It's all about Brock Osweiler and Albert Wilson, in my opinion. Wilson led all receivers last week with 155 yards. Wow. Had 2 touchdowns on the day. New career high for Mr. Albert Wilson with Brock Osweiler. Who would have thought? I definitely am intrigued. I've been talking about Albert Wilson since preseason, watching him play. Yep. He's obviously a huge playmaker, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he can do scary, scary things. They are going up against the Lions, though, who are allowing the 5th fewest fantasy points per game. So it's going to be a much tougher matchup this week. But they played the Bears last week, who were supposed to be so scary, right? Yeah. So, who knows? This guy could also be looking at another 8-plus target game. I really think so. So with that ability, he has the possibility to have another 20-plus point game, another 2 touchdowns, no doubt. That's just the type of player he is. And I think now Gase has to realize what he has in Albert Wilson, so he's going to be really trying to get him the ball. So he's only 9% owned in leagues, so if you are able to go get him, he'd be a great filler this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I like Albert Wilson a lot, but we talked about he's going to be up or down, but even his down games aren't terrible.
They're not terrible, but I always do this where I chase, and especially I've done it for Albert Wilson before, where I chase a 30-point game. And the next week, he just shows up with less than 10, and it kills me. But this week, too, it's going to be interesting. I just am super intrigued by this Brock Osweiler connection. I mean, he loves him, and he can't stop looking his way. And I think with that, he's just going to continue doing that. So we could see Wilson's target share shoot through the roof.
Definitely. One of the guys that I actually picked up, and I'm throwing in my flex this week, is Mr. Willie Snead the 4th. He actually quietly led the Ravens in catches last week and was tied for the target lead of 10. So it's not like he's doing anything crazy special, but he's been crazy consistent. He's scored over 10 points every game except for 1. And so for me, I feel like when you're picking someone up from the waiver wire and you're trying to throw them into your lineup, you're not expecting the world from them, but you're hoping at least for 10 points, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And or you could. It depends on where you're at. You could be chasing those 30 points, so pick up an Albert Wilson and hope for that. I don't think Willie Snead's going to do that, but last year he was shown to be capable of scoring multiple touchdowns in a game. So he is playing New Orleans, who's the worst pass defense in the league right now. And it's his old team. So I think he could be going out there with a little more motivation this week, hoping to make some plays, hoping that Joe Flacco gets him the ball, knowing that he wants to ball out on them and say, hey, you screwed up by not re-signing me. So I think Willie Snead is someone you can pick up and throw in your lineup this week. And, I think he's a nice flex, definitely. I mean, obviously there's John Brown and Michael Crabtree in that offense.
It's tough, but they're all eating. They're all getting hurt, like you said. Even Willie Snead, who you think is maybe the worst of the bunch, his worst game is a 7-point game, which, that's his worst. He's scored over 10 points every other week, which is a flex spot all day. Yeah. If you can get at least 10 all day.
I play the best team in our league. He's undefeated, Mr. Bo.
I'm coming for that, Bo. I'm right behind
Congrats,
you.
Man.
I smell you, and I thought you were gonna get an L this week too. So I would have taken. Oh, or no, I'm sorry. We would have been tied, but I'm right there. I'm gonna get you, Bo. I'm telling you.
But yeah, so Willie Snead,
Mark Ingram all day.
I
love it. Yeah, no doubt.
I'm definitely rolling with him this week.
I like it a lot. That's actually. I mean, did you want to touch base on your boy?
Just really quick, someone to look out for is Jermaine Kearse, who I was really in between Willie Snead and Jermaine Kearse. I'm in the middle between them. Obviously, I asked you what you thought. You said probably Willie Snead. So I'm rolling with Willie Snead.
And I just love that that grudge match play this week with Willie Snead.
Oh, for sure. And the matchup is way better. Obviously, Jermaine Kearse is playing the Minnesota Vikings. But last week with Quincy Enunwa going down, 9 catches on 10 targets with 94 yards. Last year when he was put into this role of being able to be the guy, he had 2 straight weeks of solid performances of 7 receptions on 11 targets for 105 yards and a touchdown, followed by a 9-catch game on 10 targets for 157 yards. So I think that this might be his opportunity to do it again, and get into that role. And yeah, last year he ended up with 65 receptions on 800 yards and 5 touchdowns, which is not a bad year for a receiver. So I definitely think that Jermaine Kearse is someone that you could pick up and even throw in your lineup if you have like a Quincy Enunwa and you were depending on him to start, which in my 14-team league I was. Quincy Enunwa is in my starting lineup every week, even though he's up and down. And so I might need to do a Jermaine Kearse and throw him in there. But right now I'm more sold on Willie Snead and his matchup this week.
Love it. I do. I like it. I'm not a huge fan of Kearse just because of I just do like their it's tough. It's tough to say because you're looking at a David Moore who crazy amount of targets. You're looking at, I just feel like, and then those running backs, that trio of running backs, it's going to be hard to see them eat. But to your point, when, he has the opportunity.
Yeah. They signed him, to be their number 1 receiver a few years back, from the Seahawks. So I think they have confidence in him. And I think that, I don't know, this is opportunity. It's either now or never for the guy. So definitely someone to look out for. I mean, next week he might be on the top of the list for waiver wire pickups, honestly. So.
I hear that, definitely. And I actually, last year, started him for a couple weeks because I needed to, and he pulled through to those stats like you called. So, but what about these tight ends, Dill? Let's get into some tight ends now. I think, obviously it's going to be pretty slim pickings out there. Do you not agree? I mean, it is going to be tough to find somebody out there. That's why I think your best bet, who is 32% owned in leagues, is Mr. C.J. Uzomah. He is now the Bengals' number 1 new tight end. Obviously, Eifert's out. Croft now out.
The two Tylers
done. They do have the Chiefs on deck for Week 7. They are ranking 2nd worst against the tight end. I think this is an easy play with Uzomah. And moving forward, he's the number 1 guy on a potent offense that's throwing the ball. He had 6 targets last week for 7 catches. So I'm definitely intrigued with Uzomah, and I think if you were able to grab him, maybe you already have a tight end. It's an easy bye week filler, or your weekly, you're streaming tight ends weekly. This is your guy. You're done streaming now because you have a number 1 guy. So go get him. In my opinion, he's gonna be someone that moving forward is a year-long start.
Yeah, and another guy that's really interesting is Chris Herndon for the New York Jets. This guy, you never know what he's going to do, but last week on his 2, I think what I'm saying is he's earned a spot moving forward to watch out for. He's not owned in any leagues at all, but last week he had a 56-yard performance on 2 catches. So big plays are what you need. This New York Jets offense is just firing on all cylinders. They're super potent on offense. So I think that, Herndon out of the U, which he was used as such a pure passing catching tight end there, and I think that's what they're going to do here with them and the New York Jets needing that playmaking tight end, especially now with Quincy Enunwa hurt. Definitely someone that I don't know if you should pick up and go, but like a situation that we have in our league with Dog Pound, Mr. Matt, he's picking up, a Ricky Seals-Jones, who obviously he's getting some looks, but he's hurt people too. A couple weeks ago, 0 points in a league. I started him. So
I did too, and on that game, he had 6 freaking targets. He is getting the target share. That's what really makes his fantasy appealing.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
really do like Ricky Seals-Jones as a bye-week filler and someone that, if you're streaming, I do like his matchup this week as well. And he had a bounce-back week this week, caught 6 passes. I'm definitely intrigued by Ricky Seals-Jones a lot. I think that was a great pickup.
Yeah, definitely. So that's about it for tight ends. I mean, there's very slim pickings. Obviously, Evan Ingram's coming back from injury. Greg Olsen just got back. So if those guys are on your waiver wire,
Some guy
snag them
dropped them just because of injury.
And bench spots,
them.
there's a league I'm in, with like 4 bench spots, and you have to drop them. You have to drop him when he goes injured if there's no IR spot, which there's not. So it sucks, But anyways, those are guys that were the main
squeezes.
Yeah, the main squeezes of the week. I thought it was a pretty decent amount of players out there that I'm excited about. Especially being on bye weeks.
I love these waiver, and especially with guys like I talked about. That you can just kind of watch this week. You don't have to necessarily start, but you can watch and really see if they're going to start to flourish, if they're going to be the guy. Or we got plenty of guys that you can throw into a flex this week or RB bye week fill-in or whatever that may be. So good luck this week.
Yeah,
we're going to be getting back on this, talking about all the week 7 matchups and who's to start, who to sit, who we like, who we don't. Simple as that. And some fancy outlooks.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Jay.
Thank you, brother.
Always a
so
beautiful, most amazing time.
That's
Have
right.
a great day, guys.
What did I do? What did I do? The league, huh?